Howdy folks, and welcome to day 3 of the Intro to Java tutorial. And today we're going to be focusing on conditionals. So let's just hop right in and see what they're all about. So first of all, we have booleans. And booleans can contain two values, true or false. Now, you're probably wondering, what will we use in the context of programming? What will we use booleans for, or how exactly will we put that into some sort of context? And I've listed out a few here. So, for example, one thing we could do is maybe we have different people that we're representing in our program. And one of the things we want to check for is if the person has a car or not. So, conveniently, we have this boolean has car. And let's say that it's true. So, they do, in fact, have a car. Then it'll be true there. Maybe we have another boolean because we're trying to check to see what their job is. And we want to see if they're a developer. So, we'll have an isDeveloper boolean value. And that might be true as well. So we have true on both of those. However, being a developer probably comes along with not being so rich. So the isRich boolean would result in false there. But of course, there could be some that are true. But in this instance, we have false on the isRich portion. So maybe one day it'll be changed to true. But for now, we'll keep it at false. So you can see that it's great for these conditionals that we're going to come up with here. And you can see that they're great for basically telling us, hey, is this true or false? I mean, does this exist or not? Or yes or no, kind of almost. And you'll see that in the future. We'll get to that in a little bit. But let's move on to how we use these booleans now. So we have this whole if-else business that you might have heard before. If you haven't, it's totally fine. Obviously, we're doing an intro program, so you might not have. But an if-else statement works very simply, and what we'll do is we'll start with just the if statement. So you can say if, and then in parentheses, we're going to have something that's going to check for the truth of this the statement that we make in this parentheses. So we'll have some statement that we make, and we're going to check whether it's true or not. If it is true, then we're going to enter into where those little curly braces are, and we're going to basically go in and do all that code in there. Now, however, if it's false, we're going to fall through to where it says execute this regardless of the outcome. So if it's true or if it's false, we're always going to execute that last line of code because it's not within any curly brace as far as the conditional goes. Now, however, if the statement is true, we're going to do those additional 3 lines that says do stuff here, do this as well, and maybe a little bit of this. We're going to do all that stuff as well. Now let's look at the one underneath. This is an if-else statement. So now how this one works is the same thing. We're going to have some statement and we're going to check whether or not it's true or false. And if it is true, we're going to do that stuff. Do this stuff if the statement was true. Also do this stuff if true. However, if it is false, now we have something else that we're going to do. And you see in that else, then the curly brace, it's to say do this stuff if the statement was false. Also do this stuff if it's false. So then at the very end there, we're going to have execute regardless of the outcome of the if statement. That's always going to execute regardless of what this statement is. Doesn't matter. We're always going to execute that line at the bottom there that's highlighted. But we have 2 different things that we might do depending on if it's true or false. So how might we use this in some example? Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I came prepared. And that is with this little example right here. So this little shebang has basically the price of bananas. So we have the price of bananas set to $3.99. This coupon's going to give us 25% off our bananas. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a prompt. Thanks for shopping. Do you have a coupon? And we're going to prompt them for a true or false value, our user. And using text.io's great library, we have something that can get us the boolean. And then we're going to have a total that's set at 0 right now, but we'll come back to that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check and say if has coupon equals true. And we don't know yet because it's up to the user. But if it is, then we're going to change the total to the price of bananas times 1 minus the coupon. So basically 75% of the price of bananas. And then it's going to say, nice, with the coupon your total comes to probably $2.99 something. Otherwise, we're going to have another thing. And this is if it's false, then we're going to say, bummer, maybe you should have checked the papers. We had a great discount. Anyways, the total is, and we're going to make them pay full price, which is $3.99. So we have two different things that can happen, a true or a false, and we have two separate things of code that will execute depending on what the user chooses. And then at the very end, we're going to say have a great day regardless of what they chose. And you'll see that example here. So you see up here, I'm going to say, do you have a coupon? And the user's going to say, yeah, I do, true. And I'm going to say, okay, well, your total's going to come $299.25. And it's a really bit of a ridiculous total, but we'll get into the whole printing situation at a later date to make it more pretty. But $299 is what he's going to pay. And we're going to say, have a great day. However, if I say false, then say, bummer, maybe you should have checked the papers and charge them $3.99. And you can see that that code that was giving them a discount is completely skipped over in the case of a false. Same with the true one. That false code is completely skipped over in the true statement. And you'll also notice here that the text.io also supports yes and no answers. So you'll see that at the bottom there as well. Yes and no can also work. So, like I said, it can handle Booleans, text.io can, and it can handle those with true, false, yes, no, uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter. It's there to handle those situations. So it will support any of those. So that's just a little neat factoid to note there. So now let's get a little trickier. So now we're going to do some stuff, and in this case, we're going to see if these numbers are divisible evenly by some set of numbers. So you'll see that we're going to have some integer that the user is going to define, and we're going to check to see if it's divisible by 2, by 5, by 10, and by 20. And then we're also going to check if it's 0. Basically, in the answer here, we'll see that if we run this program, then we're going to say, please enter an integer, and the user's going to say 100. And then we'll say, okay, so the number is divisible by 2, and if we're divided by 2, we get 50. It's also divisible by 5, 10, 20, and we're going to give the respective number divided by that and what the result would be. But you'll see that it never ends up running that little 0 code at the very bottom, where we say the number is 0 because it never was 0, and you'll see that the number 0 will never be printed. Now, another example we have here, we have things that are going to execute and things that are not going to execute based on some Boolean values we've declared above. So the user is going to give us some integer, and then we have a few different Booleans here. Take a second and think, if you didn't look at the answer before, what would be the result of this program running? Take a second to pause the video, think about it. Hopefully you paused the video and pondered it. If not, then try to give it a shot, but we'll go over the answers here. Maybe you're just a little confused, but let's see what we got here. So, add 2 is true in this case. So, let's say the user is going to give us 10. We'll say 10 is the number we're going to pretend with here. Then, add 2 is going to run, and we're going to get 12, and it's going to print 12. And we're going to check if divide 3 is true. Well, divide 3 is false, so we're just going to fall through. And we're going to fall through this else statement. You notice that there's an else statement here. So the else statement's going to change the number to 20. So we had 12 here. Now we're at 20. And they're going to say, ah, ha, 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 I changed your int to 19. Don't believe me? Watch me run. And it sounds crazy that we said 19 here. But if we proceed to look at the next few lines here, sub 5 is true. So we're going to subtract 5 from 20. And you'll notice that I did something a little awkward here, but this is an important note, and that is this minus equals. So instead of having to write another int equals another int minus 5, I can just write another int minus equals 5, and that means the same thing. And you'll see that works for plus equals as well down here in add 4. But basically we'll get 15 after this, and then add 4 is true, so we'll add 4 and get 19. And as you can see here, we'll go through and bam, we have basically the user gives us some integer, and they gave us 100. And we add 2, then we change it to 20, and then it goes 15, 19. So everything is right, and all is good in the world there. So then some other quick notes to think about here. So as we've seen, plus equals or minus equals can allow us to avoid repetition and saying the variable name over and over again. Because we have some big variable name like is the age of my son, well, that's going to be, hopefully you don't have a variable name that long, but if that is the variable name you have, you wouldn't want to write that twice, so plus equals and minus equals saves a little time there. And then the other thing you'll notice, and we haven't really mentioned, but I just thought it would be an interesting note, is that Java uses camel casing. Not OCaml. You might have seen my videos on OCaml. Not that. Doesn't have anything to do with that. But camel casing is basically, as you can see there, one camel case, my int one camel case, kind of looks like a camel's back, if you think about it. With the way that the two preceding, or the two words afterwards, are capitalized. And it is in the shape of a camel, basically. So that's where it gets the name from. But just keep that in mind, that we do have the camel casing there. So then for projects and questions. So you've seen that I've posted some questions on the other videos. It takes some time to write those, and I'm certainly happy to write them if they're beneficial. However, I know there's plenty of Java questions and examples and stuff. So if you would like me to continue to write some, I know we're only getting about 20 views a video right now, so I'm not expecting any responses at this point. However, if if these videos do take off more, or you're someone who would like to see those questions and continue to work on those, leave a comment and I'd be happy to keep working on them. But they do take some time, so that would take some time in getting some videos out. But if those do help, I'd be happy to post them. So just on that, I will leave that out there. However, I will be posting a GitHub link in the future for all these videos that will have all the code that I demonstrate in the videos, and you can go ahead and feel free to use that code wherever you'd like or however you'd want to use it. But anyways, that's all we have for conditionals today. So a little bit of a shorter video from the last few, but hopefully it gives you a good understanding briefly of what if-else statements and conditionals can do. And I hope you learned something, and we'll see you guys in the next video.